And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, April 12th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So first two segments, we're going to talk about two first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We're going to talk about Tom Brady and his comments on a potential return to the NFL, playing-wise. And in the second part of the show, we'll also talk about Aaron Rodgers and his comments on coming back after the Achilles injury. Made another appearance on a podcast, so I wanted to talk about some of the stuff he had to say. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about Montez Sweat of the Chicago Bears, talking about wanting to turn the tides against the Packers and this rivalry. So we'll get into that. And then the final part of the show, a couple of things I wanted to touch upon: the Browns restructuring Nick Chubb's contract, as well as Geno Smith and his comments going into the 2024 season. So, with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Tom Brady and a potential comeback in the works, or maybe not. So, he made an appearance on a podcast. A lot of guys are making appearances on podcasts, and hey, that gives us content to talk about things that they say. So yeah, in an appearance on the Deep Cut podcast, he stated that he is not opposed to making a comeback to the NFL if a team suffers an injury to its quarterback and reaches out to him. And he compared this potential scenario to Michael Jordan returning to basketball. He also mentioned potential teams like the 49ers, the Patriots, and the Raiders as possible destinations. But the one thing that could prevent him from coming back is the fact that he is a part-time owner. But once that all gets figured out and finalized with the Raiders, because, you know, he's going to be a part-time owner. And if that ends up going through, the owners could vote against him coming back if he, wanted to come back. And also at the same time, he is going to be with Kevin Burkhardt in the booth for Fox next season calling games. So he's got a lot going on. But, like I said, did not rule out the possibility of coming back. So I wanted to go over a couple of things that he had to say directly. So he said, "I'm not opposed to it. I don't know if they are going to let me if I become an owner of an NFL team, which is the Raiders. I'm always going to be in good shape," which I believe him. "I'll always be able to throw the ball. So to come in for a little bit like MJ coming back, I don't know if they would let me, but I wouldn't be opposed to it." And like I said, named a few teams that it could be a possibility. And yeah, like I said, he also plans to begin work as a sports broadcaster at Fox Sports this summer. Again, he's going to be opposite of Kevin Burkhardt when the season starts next season. So I'm curious to see how he is going to be in the booth. But yeah, and then at one point in the podcast, he also said, "My career and all that, that's a thing in the past in my mind. I was a gladiator out there, and now my time has moved on. Now it's okay. How can I deliver for my next group of teammates?" I mean, with him simply just saying he's not opposed to coming back, he still misses playing. He still misses playing because that was his whole life. And I did see a recent interview. Well, not a recent interview, but I did see a clip of an interview from what was it? I think it was like 2005 of him talking about, what it would be like post his career and how he was terrified of that. But it's here, and he's doing a lot. He's going to become a part-time owner or have some ownership of an NFL team, as well as being a broadcaster. So he's really living it up. But I think he still misses playing 100%. But for him to come back, it's got to be the right situation. I think he could step into the 49ers quarterback position role and be successful because of the amount of playmakers he would have around him and the defense, of course. It's got to be the right situation. Now, again, he said if an injury happens, so Brock Purdy would have to get hurt. Now, I don't want to see Brock Purdy get hurt. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, I've been very vocal on injuries, and nobody likes injuries, but they happen. And you saw how many quarterbacks got hurt last season. So Brady could have came back last year and pulled the Joe Flacco. I think that's something else he said too, is that he doesn't. It's got to be something like, again, quarterback gets injured, something that he could come in late in the season, because that's exactly what Flacco did. And Flacco played really well for the Browns, and they got to the playoffs. Again, didn't end how the Browns wanted it to, with the Texans defeating them, but still, I mean, that was a storyline for weeks, how Flacco was playing with the Browns. So I think Brady could do that, but I think, like he said, it's a thing of the past, his playing career, but he's still open to it. And like you said, he's always in good shape, and he's always throwing, and I believe him 100%, because football is just a part of his DNA, and that's always going to be a part of him. But yeah, maybe you close the chapter on that. Now you're doing other things, so it's not going to happen. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't miss playing. He absolutely misses playing. And he's definitely better than some quarterbacks that are still playing. But again, it has to be the right situation. Like, you can't go to a team that's, trying to find a quarterback themselves. And, like, if he went to a team, like, if he went to the Giants right now, like, he wouldn't be good. It's got to be the right situation. I mean, the Patriots, they're kind of rebuilding. The Patriots, it makes sense because that was his home for 20 years. And, I don't think he, well, I mean, he did mention other teams. But, yeah, I mean, that's the thing you could say is he was with the Patriots forever. That's why he'd want to go back there. But right now the Patriots are not a great team on paper. They got a lot of things they got to work out with on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, defensively, I think, they'll still be fine, but the 49ers, that would be the best spot for him. And I talked about this on a previous show. Kyle Shanahan reached out to Tom Brady before the season and said, hey, how would you like to, maybe play for us? Because, Brock Purdy's still recovering from the elbow injury, didn't know how he was going to be. You let Purdy sit behind Brady for a year. And that could have been possible, but Brady said no. But yeah, it's a thing of the past, and especially like at his advanced age of what is he now? He's 45, 46 years old. So again, it has to be the right situation. I think it would have been better off for him had he retired after the 2021 season. But so he's 46. Yeah, he should have retired after the 2021 season because that was a great year for him. And they lost to the Rams. They almost pulled off that incredible comeback. If he would have retired then, that would have been fine. But to go out like he did, losing to the Cowboys for the very first time, and the Bucs finished 8-9 on the season, yeah, he retired a year too late. But again, I mean, it's not all his fault that the Bucs finished 8-9, but yeah, probably would have been better off if he retired after 2021 when he played like an MVP. And many people said he should have won the MVP in 2021 over Aaron Rodgers. And you could definitely make that case because he had a really good year. I think he had like 43 touchdowns that season. Played really well. And I honestly thought I thought the Bucs were going to somehow make it back to the Super Bowl. But they went up against the Rams, and the Rams stopped them. And give the Bucs credit for almost coming back and pulling off the comeback, but yeah, that was his last really good year. Yeah, so what did he have? So he had 43 touchdowns to 12 interceptions in 2021 with the Bucs. And then of course when they won the Super Bowl, he had 40 touchdowns to 12. Yeah, and those 2 years are in between his final year in New England when he had 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and then in 2022, what did I say? I meant 2019. I think I said 2022. 2022 with the Bucs, 25 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and then 2019 he had 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, his last year in New England. And then in between that, 40 to 12, 43 to 12. Put up really good numbers his first 2 years in Tampa, but his final year, the offensive line wasn't very good. There was no more Bruce Arians. Yeah, so I think he would have been better off. I mean, I said he should have came back. I said that because I'm like, he can still play. I mean, he should come back, and also there was no Gronk his final year either. So, but yeah, kind of retired a year too late. But again, I think, like I said, he can still play. I feel like, but it's got to be the right situation. So, but I think it's not going to happen, but he does have the door cracked open a little bit. So, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Because, like I said, there was a ton of quarterback injuries in 2023. And if something similar like that happens in 2024, and it's the right situation, then maybe we see Brady suit up again. So, but right now, it's focused on the Raiders and being a broadcaster. And again, like I said, I'm curious to see how he is going to be in the booth. Because he's an incredible football mind, knows the game. But how is that going to be now being a color guy on an NFL broadcast? I mean, again, I think he's going to provide great insight. But let's see how it is. Some people think he's going to be bad. Some people think he's going to be really good. But we'll find out. Maybe he's going to be the next Tony Romo, where he's just going to predict every play. And now, again, now this is from a broadcaster standpoint. This is not from a quarterback standpoint, because we know Tom Brady's resume. I mean, Romo does not stack up to that at all. But just saying, when Tony Romo first broke in, everyone loved him as a broadcaster. So, we'll see how he is. And I think there'll be some growing pains, but, and I think I think Brady will do all right. And he's with Kevin Burkhardt, who I really like as a play-by-play guy, so, again, curious to see how that goes. So, but let me know what you guys think about what Brady had to say on a potential comeback. Do you think he will find a way to come back, or is this all just to get people talking? Because, yeah, that's partly what this segment is just something to talk about. Because again, it's in regards to the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion. I know a lot of people disagree with that. My dad's one of those people, but I think from a resume standpoint and, what he was able to do, I mean, yeah, it might not have been the most talented, but I think you got to say he was the greatest of all time. But we're going to talk about another all-time great in the next segment. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and some of the things he had to say about his Achilles injury that ended his season last year, and how it was a possibility that he might have retired. So we'll get into that when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.